The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the tragic murders of Keith, Jennifer, Sophia, and Jesse Caneiro, a wonderful family from New Jersey. The accused is Paul Caneiro, Keith's brother, who prosecutors say was stealing money from his brother, and when he got caught, he took out his brother's whole family. Here's the story.
The case against Paul Caneiro unfolds like a nightmare born inside a family feud. Prosecutors allege that in April of 2018, Paul drove to his brother Keith's house where he murdered Keith, then killed his wife, then stabbed his children before setting the house on fire. Investigators say the crimes were deliberate, methodical, and fueled by resentment and a conflict between the brothers about money. Authorities allege Paul used firearms, accelerants, and careful timing to carry out the attacks, then attempted to destroy all the evidence by igniting the home. The fire initially masked the murders, but autopsies revealed that Jennifer and the children were killed before the flames were spread. Paul was arrested within days, and now prosecutors have laid out a chilling narrative of jealousy, rage, and betrayal, one that transformed a family dispute into one of New Jersey's most horrifying alleged crimes.
Now remember, this case involves actually two separate fires. You've got one fire at the defendant Paul Caneiro's home, and that's the first one where firefighters and emergency personnel respond to. And in that case, the fire seemed to be set in several locations, and the entire family got out unscathed. Right? They got out. Paul Caneiro had a little issue with his, I think his left hand, but other than that, no one was really injured or hurt in that fire. Hours later, in the same day, a fire is discovered at his brother's home, Keith, who lives in another town. Much bigger house, and because the flames have been simmering for quite some time, a much bigger fire. I want you to take a listen to some of you'll hear the voice of the neighbor and the firefighter who were there at the scene, and I want you to have an idea of what it was like at the fire at Keith Caneiro's home that morning where the 4 bodies were found. Take a look, take a listen.
And what happened when you opened the door?
There was very thick clouds of smoke coming from the inside.
What did you do then?
I yelled to see if anybody was inside. Nobody responded. The clouds were so thick I couldn't even enter. So I went back to my car and called 911.
Okay, fire.
Where?
Willowbrook Lane, Willowbrook Road.
What's the address? Okay, what's the address?
I think it's 40, I don't know, I think it's 44 Willowbrook.
What's on fire?
This,
What is on fire?
the house.
Where do you see flames coming from?
I see the smoke from behind. I pulled out my neighbors from behind me. I opened the door, and there is smoke's coming out, and there's a person laying down.
Where are they laying down? Can you get over to
in front of the house.
All right, get over
Yes,
to
I'm coming over.
Okay.
Oh my God, there's blood here. It's a corpse.
It's what?
It's dead.
What's dead?
Somebody is dead here.
Okay, sir, you need to get to a safe area. Hold on a second.
Where did you enter, you and your crew, where did you enter on that date?
From the door here on the Alpha side.
You gotta speak up, sir.
From the front door on the Alpha side.
And just put a little box around where you entered.
As soon as we got through the door, there was zero visibility, blackout conditions because of the smoke. So we were essentially operating by by touch.
Where did you go?
As soon as we went in, began the left-hand search, we were met with the set of stairs. We climbed those stairs, and shortly after reaching the landing of the stairs, we came in contact with the victim.
How did you come in contact with the victim? I mean, as far as visibility goes.
I felt her.
Were you with anyone else at that point in time, like right in front of you?
Yes, there were two firefighters that had made their way up past me, out to the second floor. And there were another 3 behind me. After it was determined that it was in fact the victim, I turned to the firefighter that was just below me on the stairs, and I told him that we're going to be taking them out. I grabbed the legs, and he grabbed her arms, and we carried her out.
Where did you take her?
Just by the garage doors.
Were there any signs of life at that point?
I wasn't able to determine, but it didn't. Once we were outside of the smoke, and I was able to see, did not appear to be.
Just to be clear, was it an adult female or a young female?
A young female.
He's a professional firefighter, right? And for him, you can feel the emotion that he felt, reliving it so many years later on the witness stand. This was a brutal scene, but an intense fire at the home of Keith Caneiro. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. What does the scene at Keith Caneiro's house reveal? I mean, this huge house, completely filled with smoke and flames and bodies. Joining me, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, and retired FBI agent Stuart Fillmore. Stuart, I'll begin with you. From your perspective, coming upon this scene and the intensity of this fire, what does it reveal to you?
Well, clearly, I think what it is someone is trying to hide a murder and make it look like they died in a fire, probably not thinking or realizing that, an autopsy, despite maybe some fire damage, would more than likely reveal, something deeper here.
Al, from your perspective, what does this scene reveal to you?
It shows revenge. It shows anger. It shows that, if he was trying to set this up as a mob hit, or the Russian mob or the Italian mob coming in, that it was a scorched earth policy for them, that they were so upset with the Caneiros that they not only executed him in the front lawn, but then they executed his daughter, his son, and his wife, and then set the fire so that there was nothing left. So it demonstrates that this was a crime that was thought out to demonstrate how horrible and vicious it was. So he could turn around and say, I would never do something like that, but the mob would.
Stuart, when you have a fire this level, this intensity at the scene, how much does it impede your ability to get the type of evidence you could usually get?
Well, Vinny, I never really did fire investigation, but I have friends that have done it in the ATF, and so I've been on the periphery of it, and it's amazing what things can be gleaned from a fire scene. To me, or to just a regular person, you would think, well, there's just nothing there; everything's destroyed. But the true investigators that know what they're looking for, it can tell a lot. Again, I think this was just a matter of time before this was found out.
Al, the fact that this fire is so expansive, like the house is enormous, right? Like it's an enormous, beautiful home. But the fact that the house is so consumed in smoke and flames, to me, is an important part of the timeline of this case.
Well, it is. It also, it's interesting because it does buy him more time. The fact that no one found out that this house was on fire until, sizably after the fire had already consumed a lot of the house. It gives him time to get away, gives him time to get to his house, gets him time to set his fire, and then go from there. And then, oh my God, there was also a fire at my brother's house? Man, what are the odds? I mean, this bought him time. And, what you said about, the investigations on the fire and stuff, they know where the fire started in this house. So, there are so many clues that come, even that flames cannot destroy, when you've got experts at the level, like our fellow FBI officer over there and stuff like that know what they're doing, that, it tells many tales. But this one bought him time, which is definitely helpful with him getting away without anyone seeing him, or without him, getting there and then, they already found the house and he's not home yet. So I think it was it was absolutely a gratuitous act towards him with regards to how he was able to get away in time.
And Stuart, the other part of this, and I think this relates to your first answer tonight, which is that it doesn't seem like it's a professional job that was done here.
Yeah, exactly. But, to me, there's some similarities here to the Alec Murdaugh case in South Carolina, where he used two different guns to make it appear that there were, potentially two suspects. They used a shotgun and a rifle. Well, here you use a pistol, and I think the wife and the children were stabbed to death. And then he tries to cover that up with a fire, and then he sets a fire at his own house. Again, all this is, is somewhat amateurish, I guess, to try to make this set up to look like, that there's two people and that he himself is not involved. Because, oh my goodness, there's a fire at his house as well. So, the brothers seem to be under attack, if just looking at it on the surface.
Yeah, that Murdaugh comparison, we've been talking a lot about that. Each night as we take a look at this story in this case, it does. There are so many common denominators here. And ultimately, we know what happened with Alec Murdaugh. We'll see what happens with Paul Caneiro. We've got more to get to. Al and Stuart are staying with us. Coming up next, did the killer act alone?
The defendant pointed that loaded handgun at his brother, and he pulled the trigger 6 times. 5 of those shots hit Keith.
The Court TV podcast will return.
He stabbed his nephew Jesse multiple times in his upper body and threw his arm into his chest. And he stabbed his niece Sophia 17 times over her entire 45-pound body, including deep stab wounds in her face and the top of her head.
The brutality of this quadruple murder. Unbelievable. And you think that would be Uncle Paul killing this little girl, stabbing a little girl 17 times? Unreal. Now, let's take you back to the scene. We're taking you back to Keith Caneiro's house, and I'm going to show you a picture in just a second. You don't see his body, but you're going to see the sheet covering his body. It's Keith Caneiro, and I want you to pay close attention to where he is located. Let's take a look at that photo now. You can see he's outside of the house. He's not inside. And from the beginning of this case, and there he is again now under a red tarp after they cover the white sheet up. From the beginning of this case, the big question was, well, how and why was Keith Caneiro outside? And that question has been answered to a certain extent, that the power was out, the generator's not working in this mansion, so he's going out to try to figure out what is going on with the power. And that's why you would go out at that time of the day. And he is found outside, shot. Now we're going to take a listen again to the neighbor and a detective describe where the other victims' bodies were found. Again, this is his wife and his 2 young children.
I was actually getting into the vehicle, and I have a truck, so I was getting up on the step, and as I turned, I saw a body in front of the house, in the bushes.
Did somebody provide something to cover up the body?
I believe we got a sheet from the first aid squad to cover him.
And then after that, was there something else?
Red tarp was put on top of it.
Did you do anything at that point to check Keith's body?
Yes, I rolled him over to check to see if he was deceased. He was pulseless and breathless. There was red blood, what I believe to be blood, solidified underneath him.
What, if any, other information did you learn about the inside of 15 Willowbrook Road?
That there were additional deceased victims inside the house.
Okay, and specifically where were those additional deceased victims located?
One was in the kitchen, one was next to the staircase, and one was on the landing of the staircase.
When you say the landing of a staircase, can you be more specific?
The staircase going from the first floor to the second floor, there was a deceased victim on the floor prior to the steps, and at the halfway point, there's a landing connecting the staircases. The boy was brought out, also partially clothed. He had wounds on him as well, possibly stab wounds. And then an adult female was brought out of the residence. She was burned very, very badly, full thickness burns to see muscle structure on her body.
Each one of these witnesses, I mean, this was brutal. It's impacting seasoned detectives and firefighters going through what they found inside that home. Let's go through it so you understand where everyone was found and how they were killed at the Caneiro home. First, we begin with Keith. Keith was found outside in the yard, described in the bushes there, shot once in the lower back, shot 4 times in the head. His wife, Jennifer, found on the first floor stairs leading to the basement, stabbed multiple times in the torso, but also shot in the head. Little Jessie. Oh, we have Sophia first. Little Sophia. Found on the landing of the stairs between the first and second floors, stabbed multiple times. And finally, little Jessie. Found in the kitchen, also stabbed multiple times. So all 4 victims are in different places, 2 different weapons. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Did the killer act alone? Still with me, New Jersey Attorney Al Wunsch III and retired FBI agent Stuart Fillmore. Stuart, I know you have strong opinions on this one. What are your thoughts here? Did this killer act alone? Is it even possible to have tracked down all 4 people inside this, outside and inside this home and murdered them the way they were murdered?
Well, since if we assume or presume that Paul was the murderer, the killer, Jennifer and the children would have known him, and it might have given Paul enough opportunity to, because they're probably in a state of shock. This is Uncle Paul, and just trying to figure out what's going on, and that gives him enough time to shoot or kill. Certainly, it seems that Jennifer was shot in the head and then stabbed, and then the kids are stabbed. It wouldn't have been that hard to overcome the children. So the answer, Vinny, is yes. I mean, one person could have easily done this, especially since he knew them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Stuart. Al, I mean, being able to gain trust. If you're a stranger going in that house and someone sees you, they may head in the other direction, but if someone sees a familiar face and there's commotion, they may actually stay or even approach. Al, what are your thoughts here? Did this killer act alone?
He had to have acted alone. I mean, look, the gunshots in and of itself would have had caused somebody to, move, which is, I think, where the wife was going. All right, coming down, she hears the shots. Okay, then she sees Paul Paul takes her out. The kids are going to she may have screamed. The kids instinctively going to run towards the scream. They see Uncle Paul there, and then he's able to get them and take care of them also in the most horrendous of ways. I don't think there was another person. If there was another person in this, I mean, even though, the neighbors of Paul said that they saw two people, I think it was two around 4 a.m. by his house and looking in the backyard and everything else along those lines. But it wasn't until this point in time that they all of a sudden brought up the plan B of the baby brother being somehow involved in this, because he would also have made out well if the entire family was executed. And nothing else had been said about that. And you know what? Guys don't do this unless they're going to get paid. And they did a complete proctoscope of every dollar that he had, and no money was paid out other than to the Gamad, which they found, and that was it. So they didn't see any large sums going to somebody who would have been an accomplice, and no one's going to do that kind of work for free. So they had to have something that would have linked it. It's definitely by himself, and that's it.
Okay, I just have to translate your New Jersey for the folks at home, Al. When you say Gamad, that would be Paul Caneiro's kept woman or girlfriend or mistress for folks.
Side piece.
Yeah.
We call it in Jersey, side piece.
Well, for folks in other parts of the country. So Stuart, I want to get back to what you're saying about Murdoch. Do you believe that was the plan here, was to make this look like more than one killer did what happened to Keith Caneiro's family?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's almost exactly what happened. Almost as if maybe he just tried to recreate that in his own way. The one thing that gives me pause, though, is the neighbor at Paul's house that said she saw, two men wearing black baseball caps, I think. That is an interesting little piece of testimony there that, makes you think, is it possible? Because it was actually Paul that threw out the possibility that the police had never investigated the brother, the third brother. And is it ironically, maybe did that brother help? Maybe he didn't get any payments, but maybe there's something to glean from Keith's death on the other end. So I think he acted alone. I think he set it up just like the Murdoch thing, using different weapons to make it look like there's two different people, and then just try to cover it all up with a fire. The fire wasn't involved in the Murdoch case, but it's very, very similar, and I think he did act alone.
All right, big thanks, Stuart Fillmore, Al Wunsch III. Great to see you both. Appreciate it. Still to come, did Keith Caneiro have any idea what was about to happen?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murders of Keith Caneiro, his wife, and his children, executed inside their sprawling New Jersey mansion, which was also set on fire. It was a brutal scene of a brutal crime. Here's the story.
What began as a strained sibling relationship ended in catastrophic violence, prosecutors allege. Paul Caneiro is accused of traveling to his brother Keith's home, shooting him, murdering his wife and their two children before setting the house on fire. Investigators say the fire was meant to erase the crime, but instead actually revealed it. Firefighters discovered the family inside, and medical examiners later determined the victims were dead before the flames consumed the house. Authorities point to a long history of tension and financial disputes and allegations of theft. Prosecutors allege Caneiro acted alone, carefully planning the attacks in advance. The case shocked the Colts Neck community and stunned the nation, raising disturbing questions about how money issues inside of a family can allegedly escalate into unthinkable violence.
I want to take a moment here to kind of go through what was happening between these two brothers, Keith Caneiro and Paul Caneiro, and it's all really connected to this business that they had, or businesses that they had. They weren't just brothers, they were business partners to a certain extent, not necessarily even partners, but partners nonetheless. Let's take a listen first to the prosecutor here, talking about what happened in one situation where Paul Caneiro was taking money and Keith Caneiro found out. Take a listen.
In about January of 2017, the evidence will show that the defendant began taking money from that trust bank account, that TD bank account, sometimes to the detriment of paying the premiums. Sometimes you'll see he paid the premiums, sometimes he didn't. Now in April of 2018, Keith called him out on it. When confronted, the defendant told Keith that he accidentally transferred money to the wrong payee, that he went and paid a school loan. $25,054 to be precise, that he accidentally transferred that money. He apologized, he said he would make restitution, and he said that he had his, quote, head up his ass, his words. You see, Square One, the more profitable business that Keith owned 90% of, that had only one major client left. And that it received about 90% of its revenue from that client. That client's contract was set to expire and would likely not renew. Now, Keith had planned for this. He had foreseen this coming for some time, and Keith had a plan for his and his family's future financial well-being. And he communicated this plan to the defendant. Keith's plan involved, if Square One were to dissolve, his plan involved selling EcoStar, the business that they owned 50-50, and using his half of the proceeds from that sale, along with potentially borrowing money from his life insurance trust and or 401k to pay down his mortgage. He wanted to get a job in the marketplace and be done with the defendant, at least in terms of their financial relationship.
Okay, so you can see this financial relationship was in a moment of change. This big business that they had that was so successful seemed like it was winding down. Keith had a future, Paul didn't necessarily have one. Now, again, Keith is in charge of Paul's trust account, which was like a life insurance, but a whole life insurance. So it was an important financial vehicle for Keith Caneiro's family, and Paul was the trustee. Well, the day before the murders, there's a phone call from Keith to Paul trying to figure out what's going on because the premiums aren't being paid according to the insurance company. And that's a big deal. We're talking about big payments for a big policy. The surveillance camera is on in Keith Caneiro's house, so you hear his end of this conversation with his brother. Take a listen.
Paul, I'm telling you, I need it. I need it. I need it. Give me the login, Paul. Give me the login, Paul. Paul, just give me the login so I can see where the money went. Then get on your computer and tell me where the money went. Paul, somebody else could read it to you there. I need to know where that money went. What's a little while, Paul? I understand you're saying you need to wake the up, Paul. Oh, Paul, I'm telling you, I just spent half the day looking at this. I need to know where it went. Paul. Paul. Are you sure it went to the right place this time? You have cash checks? You have cash checks? Paul. I hear what you're saying. Paul, I'm worried. I need to know where it went. All right, an hour or two. An hour or two. An hour or two, Paul, 7:30 o'clock.
And I'm listening at the tone of the conversation, right? And it seems like there's still that. So there's an explanation, Paul, for this? Like he's giving his brother an opportunity, it seems. It's not like he's pointing the finger at him saying, you're dead to me. It's not happening there. There still seems to me, it sounds still like brothers speaking to each other, despite the fact that there's a lot of money that is missing. Now, the final piece of testimony I want you to hear right now is testimony about the final text messages that Keith sends to Paul. It's in those early morning hours when the power goes out in his house, middle of the night. Yet Keith is still texting his older brother, Paul. Take a listen.
Between 3:14 and 3:18 a.m., a series of 4 text messages were sent from Keith Caneiro's cell phone to his brother's cell phone, advising that his power was out, that he'd gone into the basement. The last text message being sent at 3:18 a.m. stating, going outside to check the generator.
He advised me that his brother, Keith, had sent him some text messages during the overnight hours.
Okay. Did he specifically say anything about the number of text messages that he received from Keith?
He had received 4 text messages, he stated.
And what, if any, concerns about those text messages did the defendant express to you?
He had wished he had heard them.
Is that what he said?
Yes.
What's interesting to me, again, is Keith Caneiro. Like something goes wrong, he texts his brother. Lives about 20 minutes away in another town, but saying, listen, the power's out of my house. And who's the person that he texts me? It's his brother. Despite the fact that they have these issues about the money, still reaching out to his brother, Paul. Which brings me to the next question in our investigation. Did Keith Caneiro have any idea what was about to happen? I mean, he literally, his last text message is, I'm going outside to go check on the generator. Joining me, former prosecutor, New Jersey criminal defense attorney David Gelman, and criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. Great to have you both here. All right, Marie, what do you think? Did Keith Caneiro have any idea what was about to happen?
I got chills listening to his voice, knowing that he would soon be the victim. Vinny, he didn't have a clue there was still trust connected to that text. My power went out. Let me call my brother. In spite of the missing money, he did not see it coming. That is so terrible.
Yeah, David Gelman, to me, there's still, this relationship is not broken. This is like what brothers do, right? There's something happening in your world, in your life. You reach out to your brother, especially if you guys live, only 20 minutes away. What are you taking away from these communications and the mindset of Keith Caneiro moments before he's murdered?
Vinny, blood's thicker than water, right? That's exactly how I think Keith was thinking about it at this particular time. Look, you have the money situation, and he thought that was going to be dealt with one way or another. But you know what? He trusted his brother, his older brother, his blood, and he could have never thought in a million years that his older brother would do this to him and his family. So unless he was a mind reader, there is no way he would have known about this. And this is exactly what his text messages showed, that he trusted his older brother.
Marie, and I think about that, and then, this was just money. It was just like, it's a lot of money, but it's just money at the end of the day. I don't understand, if he committed these crimes, how Paul Caneiro's mindset could be so different than his brother's. His brother's the one who's getting ripped off, and yet he's the one who seems to be level-headed in all of this.
Because I think the brother might have been a little more pragmatic and had a plan B for when the business they were in was winding down, and he had a way to pay off his mortgage. He had a plan to get another job. He had a plan. Maybe this guy, I'll call him the loser brother, had no plan. And his plan involved to continue to steal from the fund and misappropriate the funds. And once he saw that the jig was about to be up, he panicked. He knew he had taken the money. He knew that he had no explanation for where the money went. It wasn't used appropriately. And maybe his brother would even report him to the police. But again, he probably was hating on his brother because the brother was the more level-minded one with more success in line for him. And he just didn't have a future.
Yeah, and I think there's a little stroke of jealousy in there as well. All right, our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, can Paul Caneiro's defense refute the evidence?
He did not commit these crimes. He did not hurt anyone. He did not harm anyone.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Corey Caneiro was on the outside of that. They never investigated Corey. They never looked into Corey. They never did a single thing to investigate Corey. Not a single thing.
Okay. What exactly did they do relative to Corey Caneiro, the third Caneiro brother? So, detectives on the stand being cross-examined, and the subject matter is Corey Caneiro. Now, the defense in their opening statement said, what about Corey? He's never investigated. They never did anything. Here's what the detective had to say about that.
You spoke with Corey Caneiro on more than one occasion as far as this investigation, right? Yes. One time you spoke with Corey Caneiro, you were in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
That was because Corey had a medical condition that prevented him from driving at night?
That was what was told to Detective Petrozello, I guess.
After speaking with Corey in Pennsylvania, you then, several days later, take a formal statement from him?
The next day.
The next day, I'm sorry. Take a formal statement.
Yes.
At the conclusion of that statement, do you continue to investigate this case in terms of obtaining any further documents for Corey Caneiro?
I don't recall if we asked him for any additional documents.
Okay. Did you subpoena any documents pertaining to Corey Caneiro?
I did not.
Okay. Did not subpoena any documents, but is there, what's going on here with the investigation of Corey Caneiro? They spoke to him at least, right? All right. This brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. Can Paul Caneiro's defense refute the evidence in this case? And it seems each day we're getting more and more evidence from prosecutors. Still with me, two attorneys, David Gelman and Marie Pereira. All right, David, what are your thoughts here? Can the defense refute this evidence that prosecutors are putting forth?
Vinny, it's going to be really, really difficult to do so. I get what they're trying to do. They're just trying to throw something on the wall and hope it sticks. But, to get the other brother who has literally no connection to the business, no connection to the money, nothing, they're going after him. That's pretty bad, if you think about it. Why didn't they just go after a neighbor or something like that? You can just name Joe Schmo off the street. Their evidence that they have that they're trying to refute it's very difficult, and I think they're having a very difficult time doing so. And when the jury keeps hearing about these things and they've seen the pictures and they hear the testimony regarding the gruesome nature of these murders, frankly, I think it's going to tick them off if you want to know the truth. And I think they're going to really be crushing Keith Caneiro when it comes to the verdict if it keeps going this way.
And Marie, the other thing is, right, there's two fires that are set. One destroys a home. One, he has damage to the house. There is some damage. But the big difference is no one is shot or stabbed at Paul Caneiro's house. But Keith is shot, Jennifer is shot and stabbed, and the kids are stabbed. So there's a huge difference in if it was Corey Caneiro in the way he treated one brother versus the other.
Good luck with Paul trying to go with TPC, third-party culprit. That's not going to work, and he can try blame shifting. That's not going to work either because he's the one who had the most motive. Did the victim have any issues concerning financial embezzlement of company funds with the other brother? Did the other brother maybe have an alibi? They can't tell the police who to look for, but they can try to throw everything against the wall to create that one little reasonable doubt. And I saw David earlier on a show, and he says it only takes one, David, right? Just one to create that doubt, and you never know. It could happen. I'm a big fan of yours, by the way.
There we go. Fantastic. So David, to me, that difference in what happened to one family versus the other, if it's a third party, why would they treat one family different than the other and not kill all the members of that household also?
It's a really good question. And also, can I have my co-panelists on more often with me?
Sure, yeah.
I love this.
I think we have a connection.
Yeah, but Vinnie, I agree. I don't know how you're going to overcome the aspect of you have one house that was allegedly burnt down or tried to get burnt down, but there's no victims in there, and then you have the other house where Paul Caneiro, Keith Caneiro, where everybody was brutally murdered, and you have the fire. You just can't mix them up. It's just not going to happen. And again, the defense attorneys, they're doing everything they possibly can to represent their client and defend their client. But at the end of the day, the evidence is just not there. You just don't have it.
So, Marie, does this now put Paul Caneiro in a corner where he needs to get up on the witness stand and try to convince one or more?
He may have to do it, especially they found a little bit of trace evidence in his house that was connected to the crime. They found some shell casings and they found gloves that really, okay, what was that all about? This could be a situation where it's a nothing to lose type defense. I call it NTL, where if there's nothing to save you, why not just take the stand? And like my co-panelist says, it only takes one to get a mistrial, some reasonable doubt. You never know.
Yeah, and that's, we have about 15 seconds left here, David, and that's where you could get evidence about Corey in through Paul.
Yeah, look, I agree. You might as well take the stand. Normally, a defense attorney would never have to say to take the stand. But in this situation, you got to throw up your Hail Mary and pray that you just get one juror to believe you.
David Gelman, Marie Pereira, we're going to wait for the audience results if you're going to be matched up again together, but thank you so much for being on tonight. Great to see you. All right, the evidence in this case is building against Paul Caneiro. The prosecution doing a nice job of laying out the case. But this is New Jersey, the state I practiced in trials, they just take a little longer there. There's no rush to get through the case, and jurors understand that. The question is, will the defense have any of their own evidence to share with this jury when it's their turn? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.